yes, it's twofold in the sense that number one, China's currency manipulation and their regulatory climate and their um, regulatory climate and their tax code. And again, this has to do with labor requirements. Like, the standard of living in China, if you're not a tech person, is so low that there's no concept of minimum wage or right to work, labor unions, or the need to pay for things that can promote the greater good of the people, because the standard of living is literally right where the government wants it, and that is very low. Number two, things like labor laws, things like environmental issues are not things that can be enforced in a free trade agreement in terms of actually being enforced. Because if they're actually enforced, that means bevies of fines would have had to been put on China, on Chinese products, on Chinese companies, which would necessitate I just butchered that, necessitate a similar reaction from the Chinese government on our products, which would essentially derail the fundamental idea of the free trade deal from the United States side, from a world perspective, but let's just say from the United States side, that we want these products to be sold freely in different markets across the globe, so GDP increases and business productivity increases. That can't happen because the cost for doing so skyrockets on both sides. So the free trade agreement itself gets ruined at that point. Which is why I'm of the opinion, look, you've got to be able to walk away from these multinational things. Or if you're not going to walk away, the United States, if it walks away from these things, is going to have a bunch of bilateral, individual, two-country trade agreements, because no country can afford not to trade with the United States in some fashion. So that's not going to be the issue there if the U.S. walks out of these multinational large alliance trade deals. The United States is not going to be a victim of anything as a result. What is the issue, though, with China? And this is very interesting. The United States could force China out of trade deals very quickly, isolate them from the rest of the world, and get what they want in return. See, environmental laws and labor laws can't be be. They can't be regulated by an international commission and checked, actually fined, because that's up to a personal standard. Like, the World Trade Organization has to do strictly with trade, not with human rights, not with the environment. There's different subcommittees that work on the UN to solve those types of issues. So you can't attack a country on trade like that. Again, the United States is one of the easiest places to do business because your intellectual property doesn't get stolen. Taxes, again, are relatively low due to loopholes. The regulatory environment is pretty good. But the reason why the U.S. is losing companies to small countries, and even, again, a large one like China, is because they're allowed to get away with things on the environmental side, on the labor side. They're able to decrease their taxes to crazy levels that the United States doesn't do because of the need to pay for things for its citizens. It upholds a standard of living that is not upheld in China. So they're not able to meet the exact same standards in terms of ease of business doing from like a regulatory or tax perspective. The U.S., however, is working at doing that through a reduction of corporate taxes, a regulation overhaul, which levels the playing field in that regard. Secondly, and this is what I believe about the tariffs, people will say they are tariffs. I don't think I believe that these tariffs, per se, were not actual tariffs, but instead saying if you're not going to follow these rules, if you're not going to open the markets to U.S. companies, you're out of the trade deal. And I think the art of the deal, I haven't read the book personally, but the idea of deal making from the conservative point of view is if you have the deal is only good if you're able to walk away from it, and also it's only good if you're able to force parties out of it if they don't follow the requirements of the negotiation. Now, currency manipulation, that's one. Chinese tariffs on U.S. products. 2. Intellectual property theft. $225 to $600 billion a year in that alone. This, my friends, is the ultimate negotiation tactic, because China can't stand to be isolated by the United States, by the rest of the world, because their economy is dead if they don't do that. They need free trade agreements. They want free trade agreements. They should be forced out of those. They should be forced out of those. In case, and even if they were to make multiple trade agreements with bilateral agreements with nations, they would need to sign an agreement with the United States because that's their main exporter. That's who they export to. So the United States can seriously take control of China in that regard. Again, and there are ways to fix this. Fix these issues without hurting the Chinese in any way, such as aligning a precious metal to the Chinese currency to make sure that is up to date, as well as making sure that the U.S. companies that go to China don't have to share their intellectual property with the Chinese if they want to enter that market. These are just two simple things that you can do to fix that issue. And these are fair things, and these are free things. And it's going to happen because the President of the United States has put the pedal to the gas, really stepped up the negotiations, and we're going to see a thriving American economy, a robust American economy because of it. You may not always like him, but it's working, it's effective. Results are coming. And that's what his voters asked for, results. And they're coming, and they're going to be coming for as long as he's president. This is the Ashish and Sports and Political Podcast. Up next, North Korea, and tomorrow, omnibus spending, coaching legacies in college basketball, and much more. Up next later this week and later today on the Ashish and Sports and Political Podcast.